This week's episode of the Slash Filmcast is brought to you by Audible. Please visit audiblepodcast.com/filmcast for your free audiobook download. Again, that's audiblepodcast.com/ and then the word filmcast.
You watch the movies, flicks, tracks for the good, bad. It's the Slash Filmcast for the girls, boys, old, young, and we watch till the last of the credits is done.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Slash Filmcast, the official podcast of SlashFilm.com. My name is David Chen, and with me are
Devindra
and Adam Quigley.
Joining us today, she is the features editor at Pajiba.com. She's also the co-host of The Station Agents, which is the Pajiba.com podcast, as well as my co-host on several shows such as A Cast of Kings and The Ones Who Knock. Joanna Robinson, welcome back to the Slash Filmcast.
It's nice to be here, guys.
How are you doing today, Joanna?
I'm doing very well. How are you guys?
I'm doing okay. Adam, how are you doing today?
Like every Sunday morning, I'm wishing I was in bed.
I'm surprised you're not in bed recording from there, actually, to be honest with you. But
you just blew my mind that that's been an option.
In any case, if you're just tuning into the Slash Filmcast for the first time, you can find all of our episodes at slashfilmcast.com. Email us, let us know what you think of the podcast and of the show at slashfilmcast@gmail.com. We've got a lot of stuff to discuss today, guys. Going to start off with some what we've been watching. We've been watching some movies that are out in theaters right now. Moving on into some discussion of some of the trailers that have come out this week, as well as the Golden Globe nominations. And then we're going to conclude, as usual, with one in-depth review. This week, we'll be reviewing The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. So, guys, let's get right into it. Devindra Hardwar, what have you been watching this week?
Yeah, I saw Lincoln, the new Spielberg movie, and I'm actually really sad that I didn't get to review this one in the podcast with you guys, because I really enjoyed it. And I haven't listened to that episode yet, but I've definitely seen a lot of the feedback from it. So, sorry guys.
I wouldn't listen to it if I were you, actually. I don't think you'll enjoy it.
I am looking forward to listening to it and just raging, on my own. But I really enjoyed this film. I think it has none of the schmaltz of Warhorse, which really annoyed me at that film. That movie felt like it was Spielberg just kind of going and with his worst tendencies for like overly sentimentalizing certain stories. We get maybe a bit of that here. I think the very opening of Lincoln has a scene, with some black soldiers and some white soldiers, and everybody starts reciting just what they love him so much, like just telling us why they love him so much, and reciting a speech. And it's a very well-known speech. So it's like that sort of thing I felt like you don't really need if you're telling a story like this. But then it goes into this really like weird, trippy dream sequence, which I found interesting. I think the script itself is interesting too, because it's really... It's sort of about the inner workings of making a law, which is something we don't really see very much in a movie like this. And I love Daniel Day-Lewis's portrayal of Lincoln. I love how he's just this towering figure who sometimes just starts telling stories for no apparent reason, which is that's sort of like how people have remembered him. That's a pretty well-known detail of Lincoln and how he approached life and people. I found it all very fascinating. And honestly, I saw this movie, right before I saw The Hobbit, and it kind of shocked me how much more I was enthralled and excited by the dialogue in this movie than I was by the action and the like swords and sorcery and all the crap going on in The Hobbit. I think that that kind of told me something. But yeah, I thought this film was really just interesting. It's a really interesting film to watch. It's also a fascinating sort of follow up to what if Spielberg did with Amistad. I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but I remember it, from the mid '90s, and I feel like it's a very interesting look at history that we normally don't get to see. But I know you guys had your issues with it, which I guess you don't want to bring up here. I really loved it, so I'd like to say that.
Devindra, big fan of Lincoln, which is doing quite well in theaters right now, and you can check it out and decide what you think about it.
It's a grown-up movie. Like that's kind of what I feel, and I feel like also
I felt like the exact opposite. I felt it was a kid's film.
I also feel like, it reminds me sort of our discussion with Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which I was the only person defending that movie because I felt like there was a lot going on there. And seriously, I feel like there is a lot going on here because you see some really great turns and some really interesting characters. The only like standout weirdness in this movie is James Spader's character, who is like a cartoonish little, I don't know, weird person. But yeah, beyond that, I don't know. I found it interesting and fascinating.
All of the villainous characters are also very cartoonish.
That's history. Yeah, I mean, people were
Really?
people are.
Don't you know
kind
that
of
back then
cartoonish.
we fought cartoons?
Perhaps, but I mean, like, people viciously defended the right to own other people, and I think that's kind of an important point to make here. And it's not also those villainous characters; they're kind of just saying their piece, and there's, sometimes there is no nuance to this story. Like, a lot of people were fighting for the right to own people because that's their economy, and they didn't know any better of the world. So, I don't know. For me, this I also saw this a couple days after I saw Django, and I thought this movie did a much better job at kind of portraying what was going on there. Django wasn't trying to do the same thing, but I had many problems with that movie, which we'll talk about later.
Wow. Interesting about it. In any case, Devindra's a big fan of Lincoln. I think that's the takeaway here. I read this interesting story at the Hollywood Reporter the other day about cussing in Lincoln. Like, there's a lot of cussing in that movie, which struck a lot of people as anachronistic. And it didn't even occur to me as I was watching it. But there's a moment when a character...
First words? What?
Well, there's a moment when a character meets Lincoln and says the F word, and it's very funny when he says it. But like that is unrealistic. Like, that would not
James
have been.
Spader's character, by the way, like, he is the weird standout in this movie. Like, he just does not belong in this world. But whatever.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Anyway. So that's a cool, interesting article to check out. Is that, like, there's a lot of swearing in Lincoln, enough to make it so that one of those family movie guides would not recommend it, and that the swearing is a little bit anachronistic. So I didn't even think, it didn't even occur to me.
Also, limbs being chopped off and dumped into a mass like limb grave. That's that may be something to warn people about.
Yeah, well, you know how important swearing is compared to limbs in American society. So.
Roots had a lot of violence and whipping. We should keep the kids away from that, because it's not like we did those things.
Anyway, moving on. Adam Quigley, what have you been watching this week?
I saw Flight, finally. You guys have not yet seen this, right?
Nope.
No. This is Robert Zemeckis' return to live-action filmmaking.
Kind of, yeah.
And remarkably, it was made for, I think, like $31 million, which is really unheard of when you're making a movie with a big-name star that has a lot of digital sequences.
Well, I think Robert Zemeckis and Denzel, like, they actually waived their fees completely.
Right.
So
For back-end points.
For back-end points, yeah. And when the movie started off, it's like, yeah, I could see why they would have done something like that, because it's actually really engaging. And I was just wondering, though, like, how are they going to be able to stretch this out to over 2.5 hours, or 2.5 hours? I don't know exactly how long it is, but it felt like it ran over that, because the movie, much like the downward trajectory of the plane itself in the film.
Oh, I see what you did there. Nice, Adam.
But that's actually totally accurate. It's like, once that plane goes down, the movie just becomes sort of terminally boring as it progresses, and becomes a very standard and not very believable morality play, just about alcoholism. That's essentially what it turns into, and it the way that God factors into the film. It starts off so interesting, and yet it seems like the life just gets zapped from it the longer it continues. And by the end of it, I was really, I don't know, pretty bummed out, because Denzel gives a great performance in it, and the direction, for the most part, is very strong. It's a very well made film. In the moment, there are moments in the film that I think, like, are really strong, and they have some great character interaction. And there's just one scene in a hospital where people are talking in a stairwell, and it's just like this one character appears out of nowhere, and he's probably the most fascinating part of the film, and he's only there for one scene, and then he vanishes, and the energy just seems to vanish from the film as well. And yeah, it's kind of disappointing. I would have hoped that Robert Zemeckis' return to live action would have inspired more excitement in me, but Denzel's great in it, so maybe it's worth watching for that alone.
Yeah, and it's doing quite well in theaters, so seems like it's worth it. A worthy sort of return to the live-action format. I mean, I'm just glad Robert Zemeckis is making movies that we can take seriously these days. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, like I would have said that for the first half of the film, but like, yeah, by the end of it, it really does take a nosedive in terms of quality, and it becomes kind of
Preachy.
it doesn't feel genuine. It feels like, despite how long the movie is and how much time it's investing in trying to convince you of the dangers of alcoholism, it doesn't feel like a genuine portrayal of what alcoholism is like. And I say that with a dad that calls himself a functional alcoholic. It's I don't know. It kind of frustrated me.
We have a lot of alcoholism in my family, and I was kind of intrigued to see this, but at Thanksgiving, my cousin sort of told me the entire plot, and she basically convinced me not to see it, because I think alcoholism and AA and the way that your spirituality and faith play into it can be so interesting. And, you know, it's not fair for me to judge having not seen the movie, but it sounds like they whiffed it on this one and just sort of, it became very preachy about it, you know, and Denzel is such a talented actor that it's something that I was so interested to see, and then it put me right off of it. So I don't know.
Does that sound accurate, Adam?
Yeah, I would say preachy. Also, just sort of, it was preachy in a very shallow way. Like it just felt like a very shallow treatment of the issue. It was facile.
Speaking of shallow treatments, I saw a movie this week. I saw a couple films this week that I want to bring up. First of all, a movie I've been wanting to see for a very long time. It's called Compliance. It was written and directed by Craig Zobel, and it was based on a true story. Now, I heard when this movie first aired at Sundance this year, people just walked out of the movie. Like, so people said, someone in the audience said, "Give me an effing break," and just walked out of the movie. And I was like, what would cause someone to do that? I'm just so curious. And I now fully understand why they said that. I'm going to give a very rough outline of the plot. This movie, Compliance, is available right now in limited release. I think it's probably going to be on video demand at some point in the future. And this is a movie where in a spate of prank calls across the United States, this happened dozens of times, someone would call a fast food restaurant claiming to be a police officer and talk with the manager and say, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody who works in your restaurant. They're like 20 years old. It's like she's like blonde and 20 years old." And then the manager would say, "Oh, you mean Becky, or you mean Jane, or so and so?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, that person." And then would say that person has stolen something, and then would then proceed to tell the manager to do things to her, and tell other people to do things to her that would, let's just say, I'm not going to give away what happens, but let's just say it's really bad.
The trailer kind of hints at some things.
The trailer hints at some things.
Even the trailer's creepy.
Yeah, it's really creepy, and the thing is, like, I was like really angry after watching this. Like, this movie disturbed me more than any other movie I've seen this year, because if it wasn't based on a true story, I would not believe. Like, this is a movie I would nitpick to death on the Slash Filmcast if it wasn't based on a true story. But apparently, it really accurately portrays what happened. And it shows how willing people are to be, or rather, how easy it is to kind of assert authority and make people do things. It's kind of a real-life, horrifying version of the Milgram experiments or the Stanford prison study, if you're into psychology. Like, all those things are kind of, you get echoes of all of those things when you're watching this movie. It is a really well-made movie, and the performances are fantastic, and you're always convinced that this is what could actually happen. The guy on the phone is very convincing. Like, you can see why people might behave in the way they behave. But ultimately, I think one of the issues that it brings up is, like, it kind of pulls you into this situation, and it makes you feel horror at what these characters are doing and going through. But I read one of my fellow critics, Jeff Overstreet, wrote a piece about it, saying he walked out of the movie. And honestly, like, I almost didn't finish watching the movie myself because I was so angered and disturbed by it. But he's saying he walked out of the movie because he didn't feel like it brought anything new to the table. It didn't really do anything to explain why people might behave in this way, right? Like, why would somebody subject someone to all sorts of humiliation and assaults just because they heard someone tell them to do it on the phone, right? Like, does it really add anything to the conversation? I think Jeff was a little harsh on it when he said that. I think it actually does in some ways because, you know, one can argue that by accurately depicting that scene, you learn something about human nature. Like, you learn you get some insight because of how well the movie is made. You get some insight into why people might do something horrible like this. But you have to look hard to find it. So I don't think it's a complete wash. I think it is still kind of worth watching, or at least worth considering watching. But I also, I think that it could have gone further in terms of explaining exactly what it is about human nature that allows us to be ordered around like this, you know? And we've seen, this is like a common thing throughout human history, that when people, when authority figures order people around and tell them to do bad things, like often we do it. And so this movie kind of makes a stab at exploring that. But the fact, the performances and how well it's made, and kind of just the illumination it provides into actual terrifying real life events, I think makes it worth watching. That being said, it really did disturb me, and so I don't think it's going to be one of my final top 10 favorite movies of the year. But you know, it's like one of those movies, like you guys can probably relate, where it's like really well made, but it like disturbed you greatly. You know what I mean? It's like almost like Requiem for a Dream. So I respect the film.
A feel-good movie.
It's not a film that I would ever want to watch again, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes me think of Funny Games.
Yeah,
which
yeah, exactly.
was so upsetting, but so good. And like you said, I think that it sounds like that film, Funny Games, did a better job of making you feel like you weren't watching horrific violence just for horrific violence sake, but rather the director was trying to make a statement. The filmmaker was trying to make a statement, you know?
That's interesting because, yeah, if anything, Funny Games, I feel like, is like... is almost more in your face about how it's frustrating you. Do you know what I'm saying? Because there's like a scene in Funny Games where I think you know what happens, where the scene like rewinds. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And it's almost like the director saying, "I know you want this, but I'm not going to give it to you." Right? But
that's the director turning it, making you feel so engaged and turning a light on your tendencies and your reactions.
Right. So so I would say Funny Games is like more didactic, and arguably I think it's as effective. But yeah, Funny Games, that movie is really troubling. Like, honestly, there are scenes. It's weird. There are scenes in Funny Games that I still think about to this day.
Right, but you would never watch that movie a second time.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the one of the not the final scene, but the last scene, like one of the last scenes in the boat. It's such a troubling scene to me. Anyway, same thing with compliance.
Sometimes on a cold winter night when you're all cozy, you just think back fondly on scenes from Funny Games.
Yeah, definitely. So that's kind of my holiday tradition. So Compliance, it's out in theaters right now, limited release. Worth watching, even if it will really disturb you because of what it says about what humans are capable of. All right. Also, so Devindra Hardawar has been saying to me, Dave, before you make your top 10 list of the year, see Seven Psychopaths. This movie came out in October. I was able to find a theater still playing it around me. So I went to see Seven Psychopaths, and I got to say, I thought it was kind of I like the whole idea of, like, you find out pretty early on in this film that this is a movie. This is like a adaptation or 8.5, where it's a movie about the making of the movie that you're watching.
Sort of, yeah.
In some ways, right? But I thought, I saw it with a friend, and we both agreed that the first 2/3 of it was awesome. But then once it gets to the desert, man, that movie just like hits a brick wall, in my opinion.
Even though that's the entire point of what it's building up to.
You could certainly argue that, yes.
And, what's funny though, Dave? I feel as if you're missing the forest for the trees a bit with this movie, but also freaking killing them softly. You give Killing Them Softly a huge pass for not doing anything, for not saying anything. And this movie is actually it's actually doing some different things. It's similar to adaptation, but I think the way it manages that within the, crime gangster genre is different. And it's interesting. And stylistically, it's kind of unique too. Like, I don't know. I think the way it's structured is fascinating. And also performance-wise, come on. Like, I feel like Christopher Walken's performance in this movie may be award-worthy to some people.
I think the problem with a lot of Martin McDonagh's, both of his movies, are that he's a playwright, and he's such a strong playwright. And so when you have scenes of dialogue in his movie, they are fantastic. I mean, I like the desert stuff because it's just people talking in desert, but that works so much better on stage than it does on film. And so I saw Seven Psychopaths twice because I'm a huge Martin McDonagh fan, but I agree that as a film, like I could just close my eyes and listen to the dialogue and the performances were amazing. But as a film with a structure, it had some weaknesses, I think.
I mean, I will say I did like a lot of things about it. The cast is obviously all-star, and there are some interesting ways that the film reflects upon storytelling and storytelling conventions. Like when it flashes the flashbacks, I thought were pretty interesting, or not even flashbacks, but like imagined flashbacks. For example, with the Vietnamese dude, that stuff is I just ate that up. But as a movie, yeah, it did not work on me, and I feel bad about that, Devindra. But
well, what's funny is McDonagh is obviously making some sort of commentary of like, this is what you would expect from like a Tarantino version of this movie, and this is not what I'm going to give you. But when they have that fantasy graveyard sequence, the entire audience that I was watching with just laughed and clapped and hooted and was so appreciative of that giant shootout in the graveyard. And that's exactly the point. You know what I mean? Is like, that if that's the movie you want to see, that's not the movie you're going to get.
Right.
But it kind of is, because you do see that.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny because we saw, two movies trying to reflect on the gangster genre and trying to do something different with it. But the more I think about it, guys, the more Killing Them Softly felt like the Boondock Saints, except a little smarter and a little well crafted. And this movie is actually new and interesting. I don't know.
That's interesting because, yeah, I mean, my takeaway from Killing Them Softly is about the sort of the de-glamorization of American crime, essentially. It's like...
Because you've never seen that before?
It's like, okay, I'm not saying it's as good as this movie, but... So, first of all, you're right, Devindra, we have seen it before. But it almost reminded me in some ways of, like, Unforgiven. I'm not saying it's as good as that movie. It's not.
How dare you.
But I'm saying, like, in the way that Unforgiven was kind of the anti-Western... Killing Them Softly is kind of the anti-modern American crime film.
Wasn't In Bruges the anti-modern, well, not modern American, but the anti-crime movie? In Bruges was all about like looking inward and seeing like the sort of hopelessness of that life.
Sure, and I think In Bruges, solid film. So, as well as Killing Them Softly. I did not like Seven Psychopaths that much. So anyway,
that's a shame. That's a shame.
Just in terms of like momentum and in terms of like setting up like I mean, they even talk about it themselves in the movie, about how they're setting up this great revenge film and then it becomes something else entirely. And I get that was the point. It doesn't mean I have to enjoy it, though. So that's kind of...
Wait, were you complaining about the momentum of this movie, or were you praising it?
I was complaining about it, yes.
You're complaining about... Momentum? Killing Them Softly? And momentum? What? Okay,
all right.
let's...
Good times.
Let's go on. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. That's what I've been watching this week. Joanna Robinson, what have you been watching?
Well, I thought I would elevate the conversation with a far more adult and mature film, which is Paranorman.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
No, this is a kid's movie, obviously, but I think it's one of the best ones we've seen in a long time. I don't know why I didn't see it in the theaters, but I'm so happy that I watched it this week. And it was like the best Tim Burton movie that Tim Burton was not involved with. And did you guys see both Paranorman and Frankenweenie?
No, I just saw Paranorman.
Yeah, same here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Frankenweenie was similar and actually a Tim Burton movie, but I liked Paranorman better. I thought it was prettier. I thought it was a better story. And it was a swell movie. I loved it.
All right, Paranorman. Is that out on Blu-ray right now?
Possibly, but it's on demand. That's how I watched it.
Gotcha. Cool. So Paranorman sounds like a solid entry. Joanna, what else have we been watching?
I also watched The Bourne Legacy. Basically, I'm catching up on all the movies that I missed this year before I make an end of year list. And obviously, Paranorman and Bourne Legacy are.
I mean, those are
hugely
things,
highbrow.
Yeah, I mean, like those are like if there's any must see list before you make your list, it's like those are going to be on it, right?
I don't know. Paranorman's on some people's lists. Bourne Legacy is on no one's list, but I really like Jeremy Renner, so I wanted to see it.
All right.
And see sort of, what happened to that franchise. And I thought it was, not as bad as a lot of people thought. So I don't know.
Well, Devindra Hardawar has like a vendetta
Bias.
against that movie.
Yeah, screw that movie. Fuck that movie.
Well, I mean,
I think there's a difference though in that like Devindra was actually anticipating it. He went into it excited, and you are watching it how long after it's come out? So clearly there's sort of a disconnect there.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
You're watching it after everyone has said it's kind of meh, and so you kind of thought it might be meh, and it was, and so you're like, oh, it lived up to expectations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Rachel Weisz is pretty. And, the end. It's hugely not as good as any of the Matt Damon installments. And I actually kind of got a kick out of the way that they tried to link it to the Matt Damon installment without using Matt Damon. But, if you take it as its own animal, which is so hard to do because, it's got some of the same actors and it's a Bourne movie. If you take it as its own animal, it's much better than a lot of the action crap that's peddled our way. So, I don't know. Better than I thought it would be, but still pretty meh.
It's like Flowers for Algernon combined with a Bourne film, except not as good as either of those would imply.
It's also one of the most talky action movies of the year, right? And then even when you get to the action, even that's kind of disappointing. So, Asian Terminator, guys, Asian Terminator.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, I thought that if they really had played up the Flowers for Algernon piece of it, it would have been a better film.
Well, we can't. We talked a lot about this in
Yeah.
our review, but I think that core concept, like the thing about the Matt Damon movies and that Bourne series was that you really empathized with Bourne because it's sort of Matt Damon going into this role. He's a baby-faced guy, and we don't normally see him as a kick-ass bad dude, but his quest to find his identity, that's something the audience could empathize with throughout 3 movies. This movie, it's totally like selfish, and it also gets like resolved sort of within a weird trippy 30-second montage sequence.
Oh yeah. You're reminding me how stupid this movie was.
Yes. I think it's not just that it's boring and a bad movie. It's just stupid. Like it's trying to be smart, but the core concept of it is stupid and selfish.
Well, I think if it had been a situation where you understood what Jeremy Renner's whole quest was from the beginning, but it's like Tony Gilroy, he has to make things mysterious and you're trying to figure it out, and then by the time you actually are told what's going on, you don't care anymore, and then the quest is not even that interesting.
He's telling a really simple story, very like complex.
He's trying to play like the Michael Clayton. He's trying to use a Michael Clayton method of filmmaking for a movie that should not be that complicated.
No.
And actually,
got Skyfall, and I was happy. So whatever.
Is hurt by being that complicated. So
you disagree? Is that what you're saying?
It was not good, Joanna. I would would you recommend this movie to anyone?
It depends what they're looking for. If you're looking for a really smart action thriller, no. If you're looking for, to see Jeremy Renner shoot a bunch of things, which sometimes you're looking for, then there you go. And I didn't think the action was as terrible. I mean, like, I didn't love the motorcycle sequence, which is obviously like the crowning glory, but the earlier stuff, like the shootout in Rachel Weisz's house, I thought that was pretty cool. So I don't know.
That was cool.
I agree with you, Joanna, in the sense that I think there are some okay action sequences in this movie. I actually put a call out on Twitter for this week. I asked, is there something that's the equivalent of Mr. Skin, but for action movies? Because it would be great. And then somebody was like, well, what would you base it on? And I was like, you base it on movies, dude. You look up the idea of how this would work is you would look up The Rock, and then you would see not the actor, the movie, and then you would see when all the action scenes are, right? And then you could just fast forward to them. This came into play this week because I wanted to watch that movie Singham, that Indian action movie. and I didn't want to watch the whole thing. I just wanted to watch the action scenes.
Yeah.
But
I feel like that's a very, very specific need on like Mr. Skin when everybody wants to see boobies. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a market for that. Somebody actually suggested the Internet Movie Firearm Database, which tells you it's an actual thing. It's like a wiki that has a list of all the firearms in every single movie. The only thing is it does not have timestamps.
And what if you just want to see kicking and punching?
Yeah, exactly. It's insufficient, Joanna. It's insufficient. So yeah, that's somebody work on that. Someone work on that, okay?
For Dave. Just for Dave.
Just for me. No, I think there's a big market for it. Anyway.
Please disrupt this marketplace.
All right, guys, that's what we've been watching this week. Let's move on into film news. Before we do that, though, we got to thank our sponsor, audiblepodcast.com/filmcast. Audible is one of the finest purveyors of audio content on the internet, and they have thousands of magazines, books, whatever you want is available at audiblepodcast.com/filmcast. This week, there's so much to recommend, but I am going to keep plugging The Dangerous Animals Club, the book by Stephen Tobolowsky, based on the Tobolowsky files. High-quality stuff. It's read by Stephen Tobolowsky. It's 11 hours of Tobolowsky files-esque goodness, and you can get it for free right now by going to audiblepodcast.com/filmcast. That's audiblepodcast.com/filmcast. With 44 ratings, it is an overall 4.5 stars out of 5. So highly recommended. We have some big news related to the Tobolowsky files to announce in January. Specifically, how many people have picked up, how many radio stations have picked up the Tobolowsky files. And I already know the answer, and I can't tell you guys right now. But it is it has exceeded our expectations. So look forward to sharing that with you guys. But anyway, The Dangerous Animals Club at audiblepodcast.com/filmcast. Support Audible, and you support the /filmcast. Let's move into film news. So guys, this was a good week for movie trailers. Let's just talk briefly about some of the ones we saw this week because they're pretty freaking good. It got me excited about watching movie trailers, which is a practice that I've generally tried to avoid recently.
It's also a good way to get excited for next year, really.
Yes, after the crapitude that was this year, in my opinion.
Or this summer.
I mean, a lot of people have said that this year was actually an amazing year for movies. But I think my personal, everyone has a different experience in terms of movies. Like, I've seen, 50, 60, 70 movies. Somebody else might have seen 100 movies. Or 200 movies, and they could have been completely different movies, right? So my experience of the movies this year was pretty terrible. I don't know what
this fall was good. It's the summer where things kind of quieted down, right?
Summer was pretty rough. But I was looking over all of the /filmcast reviews for the last year, and I was having trouble coming up with significantly more than 10 movies that I liked this year.
Wow.
So it was rough for me. But again, my tastes have grown more bizarre as time has gone on. That being said, some awesome trailers. Let's start by talking about the trailer for Man of Steel.
The world's too big, Mom. Then make it small. Focus on my voice. Pretend it's an island out in the ocean. Can you see it? I see it.
My son was in the bus. He saw what Clark did.
You have to keep this side of yourself a secret.
What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe.
The one takeaway from this trailer is, first of all, I think it looks quite good in terms of just action and the aesthetic of it. What did you guys think of this trailer, Joanna Robinson?
I'm on record as not being a huge Zack Snyder fan, but I think he makes beautiful things. So I'm interested to see what he does with this. A lot of his movies have made me actually angry. So I hope that's not the case with this one, but I can't deny that he creates beautiful art on screen. So we shall see.
Now, Devindra, the words you said have stuck with me since watching the trailer. Was when did they turn Jonathan Kent into a cynic, right? Because there's a scene of dialogue in the trailer when he's like, "Son, you have to be careful about you have to keep it a secret, man." And then he's like, "What was I supposed to let him?"
Verbatim.
What was it? I'm quoting from the script.
No, he's like, yeah.
And,
He's not from Kansas. He's from California.
and Clark Kent's like, "What was I supposed to do? Just let them die?" And then Jonathan Kent's like,
in the bus.
"Yeah." And Jonathan Kent's like, "Maybe." It's like, what?
Yeah, he's the heart of Superman.
Does this comport? Yeah, does this comport with any previous portrayal of Jonathan Kent?
I feel like people have told me Smallville, the Jonathan Kent character there, definitely tried to push Clark to be, just very secretive because he didn't know how people were going to approach a character or a person with superpowers. But at the same time, I've seen some of Smallville. He was not like just this guy who was like, seriously, do not trust people. Seriously, you may want to let people die when they're in danger. It's a small thing from the trailer, but later on, Clark is also like, my dad never believed that people would accept me. What kind of a lesson is that for the guy, like for the father of Superman to give him? I don't know. I feel like
it's a reimagining of the character. It makes
Right.
sense that he would obviously have different parental guidance if he is going to be a different character.
Yes, it does make sense. I'm just saying
It's terrible parental.
What the hell?
Yeah, it's terrible parental guidance. I think. I mean, Adam, quickly, your thoughts on the trailer?
I'm definitely interested. I'm looking forward to see what Zack Snyder puts out. I was more concerned with just like the dialogue, with the continuing the Tree of Life theme of sort of the artsy shots, and it's like the world is too big, Mom. She's like, then make it small.
It's written by David Goyer.
Make it an island. And that whole little exchange kind of bothered me. But after you got past that point,
It's
the
like
trailer
that
started to win me over.
That was the best. Okay, they watched the entire 2-hour movie, and that was the best dialogue they could harvest from it.
Well, no, it has to with that's the sad like Gladiator-esque music,
Yeah.
It's-
But I'm just saying, imagine if it was the case that was the best dialogue, then we'd all be pretty screwed. So,
It's David Goyer.
right.
go ahead, Jenna.
Nothing. Never mind.
Okay.
I hate Zack Snyder so much. I'm trying to control it.
Just be on the record for saying.
All right, we also saw the trailer for Star Trek Into Darkness, which continues along. It kind of goes Die Hard-esque in combining the title of the franchise with the title of the sequel. So it's a Star Trek Into Darkness. Like he's trekking into...
I still hate that.
Do you get it, guys?
Yeah.
Very clever. I thought, like, when I started hearing the trailer begin, I actually thought Patrick Stewart was in this movie. I thought Benedict Cumberbatch was like channeling Patrick Stewart. Did anyone else get that? I think I was the only one, but it really
Weird.
Maybe I just can't tell British people apart. But no, I'm just joking. I mean, I thought it sounded a lot like Patrick Stewart.
You think your world is safe. It is an illusion. A comforting lie told to protect you. Enjoy these final moments of peace. For I have returned to have my vengeance.
In any case, this movie was awesome. I mean, I should say the trailer was awesome.
Just like preemptively.
Already on record.
I'm already giving my review of it right now. But yeah, it's the same style of visuals that J.J. Abrams brought to the first one, like stuff that you see in this trailer that you just haven't seen before, right? Or you haven't seen it done in that way. There's a sort of grandeur to it that J.J. Abrams seems to be able to bring to it, and he seems to know exactly how to use the tool that is Industrial Light and Magic. So I was very impressed. Any thoughts on this, guys?
Yeah, it looks good, but you know what? It looks even more like a Star Wars movie than the first Star Trek movie did. So it's just, I'm excited for it, but it's clearly this is not, what Star Trek fans have liked before. I know you're a big Trekkie, Dave. This doesn't look like anything from Star Trek before, other than J.J. Abrams' earlier movie.
It's a new timeline, Devindra. So
I know. I'm going to push up my glasses and say, yes, I know, But it's pretty. I think it's cool. I also think it's really hilarious how J.J. Abrams, who's like famous for his mystery box notion, like the things, the sort of like core mystery that surrounds a movie or a series. In this one, it's basically, who the hell is Benedict Cumberbatch? And that's really all people can talk about.
And why do we care? I mean, that's what I keep talking about. Is like,
He may be Khan, he may not be Khan. What?
I got so irritated with all the Talia al Ghul talk around the Batman movie.
Right,
it didn't matter. It didn't end up mattering at all. And so people keep talking about who's Benedict Cumberbatch. And it's like, it doesn't matter. He's Benedict Cumberbatch. He's fantastic. He's the best person you could get to be a villain in a movie.
That's going to be the reveal, is that he's actually Benedict Cumberbatch.
He's Sherlock Holmes.
So, yeah. Great trailer for that as well. I'm sorry. I realize I'm falling into the stereotype of an internet fanboy by praising it so effusively.
We get a whole bunch of good trailers, you know.
But I'm just worried because was this setting you up for another disappointing year? If, there are all these trailers and you're like, looks great. And then you go and then you're so sad. But I don't like to see you sad, Dave.
That is the circle of life that is the Slash Filmcast, though. It is getting psyched about stuff and then be crushingly disappointed by it.
In fact, life of Hollywood.
In fact, Joanna, you should know this better than anyone, having hosted 2 podcasts with me, or 3 podcasts with me, each of which my opinion of the show rapidly declined during the course of the podcast. So,
and then you slowly lost your grip on your mental faculty.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Distressing.
That's right. I know. It's very upsetting. Devindra, there was a third trailer that you wanted to mention, right? What was the...
the Pacific Rim trailer.
Oh, the Pacific Rim trailer.
Oh, yeah, Pacific Rim.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. It is basically Guillermo del Toro living out his kaiju giant monster movie fantasies, but also bringing in giant robot shit. There's a lot of anime references in there too. It definitely reminds me much of Evangelion, which I grew up with, and which is one of the formative series I've ever that I've seen. So I just kind of love the level of awesome in this trailer. It's just full of cool shit.
What was awesome, I think, is how effectively the film was able to... I'm sorry, I keep referring to them as films, but they are not films, and I understand that, and I know...
They're like short films.
It's playing into the worst stereotypes of internet people that I call them films, but I like how it was able to convey to you how the robots functioned in conjunction with the human strapped into the suit.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right. I also like how it conveyed the...
Yeah, that was
grim.
That was pretty awesome as well. I agree. But yeah, this is a movie with giant monsters fighting giant robots, featuring GLaDOS from the Aperture Science Center, directed by Guillermo del Toro. This was genetically engineered to go viral on the internet. I mean,
it's one of the best casts I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Great cast. But have you guys checked out all the character names on IMDb?
No.
I suggest you do, because it is amusing.
All right.
I like the names of the actual robots. Just hearing GLaDOS, what was it? Gypsy Danger.
Okay.
I'll say that the names of the humans are not any less ridiculous.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. And now a clip from the Pacific Rim trailer. We always thought alien life would come from the stars, but it came from deep beneath the sea in a portal between dimensions in the Pacific Ocean. Something out there had discovered us. They counted on the humans to hide, to give up, to fail. They never considered our ability to stand, to endure, to rise to the challenge. Ready to activate the Jaeger in 3, 2, 1. Today, at the end of our hope, at the end of our tide, we've chosen to believe in each other. Today we face the monsters that are at our door. Today we are canceling the apocalypse. Pacific.
How many times have you seen this?
I've watched it at least 10 times.
But you were definitely reading that off your computer, right?
No, that was from memory. I think I fucked up on a couple lines.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive. Except the other thing is, it's not clear to me if Idris Elba is supposed to have a British accent or not.
No, he is.
But I can never tell with him.
I can't either. I didn't know if I was supposed to attempt one or not.
I mean,
this
do you remember?
Feel like Prometheus?
Yeah, remember Prometheus?
Prometheus.
What was he doing in Prometheus? That's my
Prometheus
question.
was weird Southern dude.
Yeah.
He was definitely going for American Southern type. But here
Southern,
it sounds British. So we'll see.
I think he was doing Cajun almost, because he had that accordion.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. All right, guys. In terms of film news, this week also saw the Golden Globe nominations. Now, I was reading Gitesh Pandya, who is a box office prognosticator on Twitter, and he has a site where he does box office stuff. And he commented today that Silver Linings is down just 4% after 30% drops the last 2 weekends, despite being in the same number of screens. The Golden Globes may be a sham, but the nods still have box office value. That's what he tweeted this morning. And he works at boxofficeguru.com. That's his site. And I think that's right. You know, that even though, yes, these things are a sham, they have no artistic importance whatsoever. And in fact, one could argue that they actively devalue the artistic process. But despite that, you know, Hollywood still thinks they're kind of important. And so we might as well mention them. So, a Golden Globe nominations came out. Best Picture, Drama, Argo, Django Unchained, Life of Pi, Lincoln, and Zero Dark 30. No major sort of surprises there. Mm-hmm. Best Picture, Musical or Comedy, Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, Les Miserables, Moonrise Kingdom, Silver Linings Playbook, and Salmon Fishing in the Yemen, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Salmon Fishing in the Yemen, which I think is this year's Tourist, in terms of like how many people saw that nomination coming, which is to say no one. But the fact that none of you guys have said anything, I'm guessing you guys don't care about this at all.
Not really.
Well, Salmon Fishing in the Yemen was such a weird movie because it wanted to be like that really sweet, inoffensive thing that you could take your grandmother to, like the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. But then there was this like hardcore terrorist plot line in it that the tone of the movie was so confusing to me. And I don't understand who saw it and thought, yes, this is one of the 5 of the year.
It is weird. But some interesting nominees on here. Jack Black for Bernie, Devindra. I know that was one of your favorite films, right?
Yeah.
Naomi Watts nominated for The Impossible, which is a film that I've heard. I think it's a new film by the guy who did The Orphanage.
Bayona,
yeah.
By the way, for some reason I noticed he's being credited as J.A. Bayona, because I guess we don't want to see his name as Juan Antonio, which also feeds into the weird like racial controversy around this movie. So
The Impossible, you mean?
Yeah, The Impossible.
What is the weird racial controversy?
So the controversy, I guess you haven't heard that much, Dave. This was originally about a Spanish family, who was trapped, who was basically separated during during the
tsunami. Right?
Yeah, the tsunami a couple of years ago.
Don't tell me the ending, because I haven't seen the movie.
It was changed to a very, very white British family, and that roused a lot of people. Basically, they thought it was just really kind of crazy that change was made. At the same time, I think Bayona is a decent Spanish director. Also, like technically, that's I guess the difference between somebody from Spain and somebody from England is it's still technically white. It's not technically a racist thing that's going on here, but it is.
Yeah,
but if you see the photo of the actual family and compare it to Naomi Watts and Ewan McGregor, it's a big difference.
I mean, this family you've seen with like
they are really white. We can say that much, right? Then.
So it is, and people are complaining that basically the whole movie's about them and kind of ignoring or kind of them working through this whole country that's been devastated with lots and lots of Asian people and other people, and it's really about the white family. So I haven't seen it. I'm interested in seeing it, though.
Wait, slow down for a second, Devindra. Swapping racially or ethnic characters for white characters and then having the movie be about them in a foreign country. I've never seen this
before.
I've never seen this phenomenon before. It is shocking.
I think the way they're crediting him is weird. That's a strange thing that I just noticed.
I mean, I would not assume anything about that because maybe he wants to be J.A. Bayona, like he wants to be like P.T. Anderson. You know what I mean? Like maybe I'm guessing that's his choice. If I had to guess,
but, I
do thank you for bringing this to my attention so I can rage against it.
Exactly.
No, I mean that is upsetting. I mean, but then again, I look at this. I look at this list of Golden Globe nominees, and there is another movie on here that's also been whitewashed, which is or not whitewashed, but made more offensive, arguably, by its racial changes, which is The Untouchables, that French foreign language film that we discussed earlier, where a black person was substituted for a Middle Eastern person, and they used all many stereotypes to make that movie succeed. But that's
you sort of like that movie, right?
I found it enjoyable, certainly, and I think like probably in the context of a French movie, it's probably like less offensive. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't. I mean, yeah. I just think like certain elements of it are probably, there's a lot of baggage in America with racial issues. I mean, that's not to say France.
Have their own
that's
issues.
not to say France is like totally devoid of any racial strife whatsoever.
Oh, they're fine. They're fine.
They're totally fine.
But you know what I mean.
Did you guys see Arbitrage, the Richard Gere movie?
No.
Have you?
That was like one really long episode of Law and Order, and I'm really irritated that he was nominated for that.
I see. So you weren't crazy about it.
I mean, it was fine, but it's like, really? Out of all the performances of the year? Anyway.
Best animated film. The shocking one on here is Rise of the Guardians, who's nominated for Best Animated Film, which is widely regarded as a pretty crappy movie, in my understanding. I haven't seen it yet.
And no Paranorman.
No Paranorman. So that, now you have a reason to be upset, Joanna.
Brave was also not as great as it might have been.
Yeah, but, I can see it being one of the best ones of the year.
It's Pixar, so it's a gimme.
Yeah.
Yeah,
certainly.
that's what it sounds like.
Movies on here that I haven't seen that I'm interested in are, for example, The Sessions. Still haven't seen The Sessions. That is a movie I want to see because I'm interested in that topic and stuff. But it's just not something that, like, when I'm free on a Friday night after a long week of work, I'm like, let's go see The Sessions. Do you know what I mean? It's just
What if I told you that there's a lot more Helen Hunt nudity than you thought?
Ooh.
Helen Hunt nudity, you said?
Oh, yeah.
Somehow I'm not enticed.
No?
But the best foreign language films, Amour, A Royal Affair, The Untouchables, Kon-Tiki, and Rust and Bone. Again, these are movies, I've been having this kind of conflict, guys, where I have this, there's all these movies that we theoretically, as film reviewers, quote unquote, should watch before the end of the movie. Before the end of the year. Like Amour, like Rust and Bone, Oslo, August 31st, I think, right?
Holy Motors.
Holy Motors. But it's just like, is it just me, or are a lot of these Les Miserables? Is it just me, or are a lot of these movies downers?
Whoa,
You know what I mean?
whoa. You lumped Les Miserables in with Amour and Rust and Bone?
No, okay, I honestly haven't seen Les Miserables yet, so I don't know. But
Yeah, they are kind of downers, but this is Oscar season, isn't it?
do you know what I mean? It's just like, I just bought my Blu-ray of The Incredibles, and it's like, I can either watch Amour, which I've heard is one of the most depressing films ever made, or watch The Incredibles again. And it's just difficult for me in this season to say, hey, let's watch all these depressing movies.
It's tough. It is hard out there to be a sort of amateur film critic, right?
Yeah, life is so challenging, guys.
I don't know. I'm definitely at least targeting the ones I'm very much looking forward to. So Holy Motors, I've heard great things about. Can't wait to see that. Surprised it didn't get any nominations. And also Rust and Bone, because I love that director, and Marion Cotillard in everything, please.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
Rust and Bone, who's that director? Jacques Audiard. He did the Prophet, right? Prophet, yeah. So looking forward to that one as well.
That's the case. Yeah, as you say, that's the case every year around this time. There's like someone's paralyzed, someone has Alzheimer's, someone has no legs, whatever it is. And it's, yeah, you're right. It's hard to get really excited. Let's go see Compliance instead.
Yeah. Again, and to cap off on, or to dovetail with what Joanna just said, I'm not trivializing the struggle that these people went through. I'm just saying, like, even though it
can only take so much.
It sounded pretty flip the way you said it just now, Joanna.
I don't know what you're talking about. My tone was really respectful.
I'm not trying to trivialize the struggle that these people went through, but it's just like, we get to choose what media we consume, and media makes us feel a certain way, and so
David, if you want, you can just call me up and I can just reenact trailers for you instead.
I think that'll be good. After I watch it more, how about we do that, Adam? Let's have a date to do that after we watch it more, okay?
All right, that sounds good.
Not to make this a huge downer, but I ended up the two movies that I watched this week, Paranorman and The Bourne Legacy, I actually watched on Friday after events, happened in Connecticut. And I was actually really upset, and I wanted to just watch things that I knew would not upset me in any way. I mean, because I don't have that same attachment with the Bourne series as Devindra does. And so the fact that I could turn my brain off for the Bourne Legacy, and the fact that I could watch Paranorman, which was, very sweet, ultimately children's film with the deep message. I don't know. That's what I needed this week.
Right.
You know?
Right. So it's like, do I really want to subject myself to these movies? And then it's like, if I don't feel good about making the top 10 list, you know? So basically I'm saying anything I say for my top 10 list, you should call into question, which I know you will anyway. So
don't worry, Dave. Don't worry.
So killing them softly at number 1, you should definitely be upset about. No. Other things on here that I think worth mentioning, the score for Cloud Atlas got a nomination. I thought that was solid work. Best screenplay, Zero Dark 30, Lincoln, Silver Linings Playbook, and Django Unchained, as well as Argo. Nothing really that controversial. I think the one other controversial pick on here was for a movie that I basically had never even heard of, and that is Nicole Kidman in The Paperboy. Have you
hadn't heard of that?
I mean, I vaguely heard of it, but I mean, we never saw it here. Did any of you see it?
No, I've
been meaning to because I've heard it's like trashy as hell.
Yeah, this is Lee Daniels' follow-up, right, to Precious, if I'm not mistaken. So apparently she I think a lot of people were surprised that she got nominated. Is that comport with what you guys heard?
I think people were surprised, but I think no one denied that it was a standout performance in a kind of otherwise shitty movie, or at least just like a really committed, fearless performance is what I heard.
Gotcha. All right, and I think that'll conclude our very detailed, serious talk about the Golden Globe nominations for this year. Before we move on, we got to thank all the people that donated to the Slash Filmcast. A big thanks to Peter Biro from Sweden for his generous donation to help keep the lights on. Also, want to shout out to Wade Prue. Happy birthday from your wife, Elise Prue. I just think it's so sweet whenever somebody tries to use our podcast to say happy birthday or some kind of message to someone because, you know, that's just like so cool that you're into your significant other's interest that much. Wade, you have a keeper there, and thanks for listening to the Slash Filmcast. All right, let's move on, guys, to our review of The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey.
My dear Frodo, you asked me once if I had told you everything there was to know about my adventures. While I can honestly say I have told you the truth, I may not have told you all of it.
Bilbo Baggins. I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
I can't just go running off into the blue. I am a Baggins of Bag End.
Bilbo, allow me to introduce Fili, Kili, Oin, Loin, Darlin, Balin, Biffa, Bofa, Bomba, Nori, Ori, and the leader of our company, Thorin Oakenshield.
That was from the trailer for The Hobbit, which is the newest film by director Peter Jackson. It's the first part of a trilogy telling the story of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. This is a much-anticipated follow-up to Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, and a lot of people were wondering, you know, Lord of the Rings was so successful critically and financially and commercially and in every single way possible. Was it worth going back to the well? Did Peter Jackson have something new to talk about here? Did he have something to add to the story of The Hobbit? Was it worth stretching out one book into 3 movies?
One really short book.
One really short book into 3 movies. It's unclear, guys. It's unclear, but I think we're here to try and figure out the answers. So, Joanna Robinson, you've read Tolkien's The Hobbit. What did you think of this film and how it compared to the book? And do you feel like it's telling the story of the book well? You know, my understanding is that they've added a bunch of stuff or made stuff that was tangential into a main part of this film. Mm-hmm. So thoughts on this film, Joanna?
Yeah, I think the justification Peter Jackson is using for making it 3 films is that he wants to use a lot of the supplemental material that's in the Silmarillion and, you know, other documents pertaining to Middle Earth. And let me push up my glasses as I say that.
I love that.
And so, you know, I could see him making 2 movies. I really could out of The Hobbit. 3 is insulting. And if you look at this movie, I liked this movie. I love The Hobbit, the book. I liked this movie a lot. But every instance where he padded or added didn't work. And I felt like it was really obvious that it didn't work. And that's not me speaking as some sort of book purist, because the way that the Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy, was changed worked for me. And what he did here did not work for me. And I think he underestimated the strength of the original story and how simple and great and solid of a story it is. And he added all this other stuff. And for me, that added stuff didn't work. But overall, I love the movie. I loved the Gollum sequence was some of the best filmmaking I've seen all year. I was on the edge of my seat practically clapping the whole sequence. I loved it. But there's so much that didn't work, and I felt like it was unnecessary. So,
Devindra, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like too much is really the ultimate complaint here. I thought it was an okay fantasy movie, but the fact that it's coming off of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which I think are a monumental filmmaking achievement, makes it all the more sad, right? If this was just somebody going back and doing The Hobbit, we'd be like, oh, okay, whatever, sure. But this is Peter Jackson trying to kind of redo the magic of those films, and it's clearly not working here. And that's a damn shame. I think what I appreciate the most about those earlier films is how just like how quickly they moved. They pushed that plot forward in a really fascinating way. Like the opening just showing off the like war between Sauron and the humans, and like setting up all the stuff in the Shire. The opening of the Fellowship, the structure of that movie is just phenomenal. It just always keeps moving. You're always interested in what's going on. This movie is just like kind of a huge mess. It starts with a weird prologue sequence that has older Bilbo and Elijah Wood back.
Frodo.
They hang around for a bit. Then we have sort of like a weird flashback to Richard Thorin Oakenshield's sort of backstory, and then we lead up to the really interminably long dinner scene. There's just way too much in this movie, just way too much going on. I feel as if Peter Jackson just didn't really understand or he didn't kind of repeat the editing that was so important to what made the earlier Lord of the Rings films work. So like cutting out Tom Bombadil, like cutting out a lot of stuff, pushing in story threads together that made that movie flow better. There's none of that here. And it seems like every decision was made to just like keep scenes going on way too long. Everybody overstays their welcome. There's some cool stuff in there, but if this movie was half an hour shorter, or even an hour shorter, honestly, I feel like it would have been just much more effective. And I'm also kind of trying to separate my impression of this movie from 48 FPS, the high frame rate technology that he's going for with this. I saw it in 48 FPS. I'll have a lot to say about that, but I'll tell you, my first impressions of this technology are not good. People are championing it as like a really clear new way of shooting. This is the future. I sure hope not, because it looks terrible.
Adam Quigley, your thoughts? So hearing Devindra say that, I'm like even more scared to hear what you have to say about it, Adam. But because you weren't even a fan of Lord of the Rings that much, right?
Well, I don't dislike Lord of the Rings. I wasn't all over those films the way other people were.
Yeah.
But I definitely appreciate them more now. I'll say that.
Exactly, yeah.
Because while watching this, I didn't think it was a bad film. I just want to say that outright. Like, I didn't think it was bad, but it did feel very redundant. And it felt like a lesser entry, and it felt like a lesser addition to the franchise. And it felt like I was watching things that I'd already seen before, just done not as good.
Yep.
And there was I was like reflecting on the movie, and there's only specific sequences that I could call to that I actually thought like stood out as being either unique or improving upon elements of the previous one. One of them being the Gollum sequence, which I agree I thought that was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And also the initial introduction of Radagast. I wanted to see more of that character, which I think we're going to.
I hated the Radagast stuff.
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Well, for me, that was like the only thing that actually felt unique compared to the rest of the film, which felt very derivative, like when you compare it to Lord of the Rings. And I kind of wanted it to play up the children's book aspect of the story, because it feels smaller scale, and yet Peter Jackson tries to make it this epic. He tries to make it this epic, and it just, like, you compare it to the story of the Lord of the Rings, and it doesn't have the same scale, and it doesn't feel the same, and the momentum of the story isn't the same. The intricate relationships between the characters doesn't have the same weight to it, and it was impossible for me not to compare it to Lord of the Rings, because it does call back to it in so many ways. And I really wish that Peter Jackson had just embraced the children's book fantasy element of The Hobbit and made it 1 or even 2 movies, yes, you're right, Joanna. 3 movies is insulting. I don't like that the idea that to see this story to completion, I have to wait another 2 years. It's frustrating, and the movie it's on its own I don't think works. But we do kind of have to wait to see the 2 other films to really make a full assessment.
Let me mount a defense of The Hobbit, if I may. Let me mount a defense of The Hobbit, okay? Which is, in life, right? We've seen in movies and the movie industry and how it works that sometimes you only get one chance in a period of 10 or 20 years to tell a story, right? Let me give you an example. The Last Airbender, right? We're probably not going to see another Last Airbender film for a long time, and if it happens...
You sure about that? It was really successful.
No, I know, but if it happens, it's going to be directed by M. Night Shyamalan. We're not going to see a non-M. Night Shyamalan Last Airbender film for probably a long time.
Now I don't know where you're going with this.
Is my guess. My point being, M. Night Shyamalan ruined The Last Airbender for a generation, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, he could have told this amazing story based on that series, and he ruined it. And now audiences will not get a chance to see a solid film adaptation of The Last Airbender for a while because, hey, well, we already made that movie like 5 years ago. Why would we make it again? The Amazing Spider-Man, I was going to say, The Amazing Spider-Man is the one exception that proves the rule.
The Hulk and the Avengers. And
but still, that's like a decade between. Okay, you're right.
No, it wasn't a decade. And redoing Superman.
Okay, you're right. So maybe my example.
It's a new age. We could just remake shit 5 years after.
Just keep doing it.
You're right.
Man.
You're right. Now that I think of it, you're right. All right.
It feels like, by the way, Peter Jackson is remaking Lord of the Rings in a couple ways because there are clear homages to those films and.
Well, even just the way it's bookended is
exactly, and
clearly...
also that those things didn't exist in the Hobbit book. You know,
right.
I've been reading the book. The changes are pretty glaringly obvious to me.
Of course, it's a way to kind of fan service to tie it back to.
Remember
when
all this happened in a better movie, guys? Don't you?
Okay, so despite all the terrible counterexamples that you listed, that totally destroy my theory. What I was trying to say was, it's like, hey, we have one chance to tell this story. We have one chance to depict the things that are seen in this movie. Like, if maybe I'm wrong about this, but my assumption is that these last 3 movies or these 3 movies are going to be Peter Jackson's last visit to Middle Earth, right? And if that's the case,
so hasty.
If that's the case, it's like, yeah, I can see the impulse that, like, hey, this is probably going to be the last time. It's definitely going to be the last time I have to tell this story. It's probably going to be the last time any filmmaker will try to tell this story for a long time. So I might as well try to tell every part of it and depict it as I see it, right? And so
that sounds more like an excuse, though, Dave, than a reason for what happened in this movie.
I'm just trying to explain what I see as having happened in this movie.
I don't. What I see is a director who nobody can say no to anymore. So similar to what happened to George Lucas, and he is drunk on power, and he is not terrified of fucking up because people will watch this and people will pay. It'll make hundreds of millions of dollars, and he can just make whatever he wants. Yeah. So like you can feel that sort of like it's sort of like in the first Matrix too. You can feel how much they were under pressure to actually succeed because they had no idea what was going to happen with those movies. And that energy, that desperation, you can feel in exactly what they knew how to trim out and the stuff they did add in. Like, it all served a purpose. Here, it's just like, let's just fucking throw everything into this movie. And I know that's not good storytelling. The good storytelling is knowing what to put in, but also knowing what to take out.
I think there is a little bit of fat that could be trimmed off this film. Surely.
Dave, let me ask you, what did you think of the pale orc, the main antagonist in the movie? What do you think, Dave?
I thought he was pretty scary.
Okay.
Is that...
Really?
What if I told you that he's not in the book at all?
Just totally shoved in.
What if I told you they made up a bad guy? I think because they felt like there needed to be some bad guy.
There needed to be an arc of some sort in this movie.
Well, let me just say, as somebody who I actually have been in the stage play version of The Hobbit, but I have not actually read the book The Hobbit. So
you did the set tour for this too, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, in terms of my knowledge of the source material, I was in a play of The Hobbit.
So you should know more than us.
Yeah. Were you a dwarf?
No, I was actually...
Were you a wolf?
I was actually Bilbo.
You were Bilbo?
So
Adorable.
I'm going on an adventure.
So, I will say this. That was a significantly simplified version of the book, apparently, because I did not remember that orc guy at all in the play.
Because he's not in it. Yeah.
He's not in it.
Here's the thing. The Hobbit, to me, I just reread it, and I read it 100 times. And The Hobbit, to me, is so much more about this internal. It's a kid's book. It's more simplistic than The Lord of the Rings, certainly. But it's also about this internal struggle to be brave when you're not a brave person by nature. And that's what it's about. And, I thought Martin Freeman was great casting, perfect casting. And I thought he did a great job with Bilbo. But Peter Jackson made it this bigger thing about a giant orc chasing you and stuff like that, when really it's about this scary thing is happening. How do I, as a hobbit who don't know how to handle these situations and really would prefer to be at home in my little hobbit hole, how do I make it through? You know what I mean? And I think that story gets lost among all the spectacle. I mean, there still is a lot of spectacle in The Hobbit, but he jam-packed that much more in that really takes away from when the story is its greatest, like Bilbo and Gollum.
Which is what's so frustrating about the film is that like those moments do exist. Like you were talking about, like trimming off the fat. Like you actually could have edited out a lot of the other stuff, a lot of the more expensive stuff that they included, and I think the film would have had a more quaint feel to it, sure, but it also would have been a more endearing film. It would have been more compelling just from a character standpoint, because the way it's edited right now, it's almost impossible to actually keep track of the character arc, because most of the time it's just them running away from shit.
Yeah,
right,
and the plot happening to them. By the way, that's that's the way the book worked, because it was really episodic. But that's not the way a movie should work, I think.
I will say this: I mean, as someone who's not that familiar with the source material, I actually kind of enjoyed the movie. I think the first hour was a little rough, but after they get on the road, it is an engaging film. It is a film that. I was rarely bored during, which I did not expect given all the negative reviews I had heard. But I think if there's any failing of the movie, it's what you guys already alluded to, and that is that you never really get a good sense of Bilbo and his motivation and his relationship to Gandalf, right? Which I think was like a key component of the original Hobbit book, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
A bit.
Not just it's not really the relationship to Gandalf. It's like his hobbity nature.
Well, the movie does give that arc here, but it really sort of blows it up in a way. Like, I feel like the movie almost makes Bilbo more of a hero quicker, and we don't really see that gradual climb.
When he comes... sorry.
Mm-hmm. Well, just from the beginning. Sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead, sorry.
Devindra, talk.
Okay, so from the beginning, right? It kind of, from the way this whole story starts. In the movie, Bilbo sees the letter and the contract, and he internalizes this whole idea that, I may be missing out on an opportunity here, and he runs after them. In the book, Bilbo wakes up late, has no idea what the fuck just happened. He just wants to relax. Again, it's Gandalf who comes and says, hey, you should go look at this note that's on your mantle. Maybe you should consider doing this. And Bilbo really hedges for a long time. And then he runs like at the last minute. Like he gets this last bit of bravery to kind of go and join this adventure. And I think, the movie just, it's weird how it's building a hero arc for Bilbo, but at the same time, it's kind of, diminishing the buildup that was already there.
Right. That's, I think, one of the biggest failures of the movie is that his reason for leaving is not as well illustrated as what you just described. For the book.
Right, and Gandalf sort of blusters him out the door, too.
Yeah,
he comes to, he's like, you got 5 minutes, you gotta go. You got 5 minutes, you gotta go, And also the wolf sequence, towards the end, when Bilbo comes out and comes to Thorin Oakenshield's rescue and stuff like that, that's not Bilbo. It just isn't. So
too soon, way too soon.
Well, if it's any consolation, Joanna, that is a classic hero moment.
Yes, we have seen this.
It's done in the most. It's done in the most predictable way possible.
Also, fire behind him.
There's fire behind him. He has the magic ring, which turns him invisible. It's funny how, if he's going to do the stupid ass thing, they're injecting into the story. He's not even doing it in a smart way, I guess. So,
right,
I don't know.
Those awesome.
Well, if he was invisible, he wouldn't be seen doing.
Yeah, you just see a floating sword. All of Bilbo's awesome trickery that he does in the second half of the book, not to have spoiler alerts, most of it's centered around that ring. You know what I mean? And he's not the kind to charge out of a flaming tree and go attack some orcs and wolves. Like, that's not what Bilbo would ever do. So
I wonder where the character's going to go from here. But in any case, I think I was the person that liked this most out of you guys, probably because I was the most, I have the most separation from the source material, except for maybe Adam. And it's like, so the fact that the orc is completely made up, I didn't know that.
He's made up, but he also looks terrible. Did you see that? Did you, think about Lord of the Rings, right? Think about Fellowship of the Ring. Like, when you see Sauron building his orc army and everything, it's so organic. You remember that scene of them like pulling these creatures out from under the ground, and it's real, and it's not CG, and you feel that. And it's weird how in this movie, first of all, the chief villain is all CG. So you can't, there's almost no threat there. But also so many more of the orcs, and there's just more CG all around. That whole organic feel that really made, I think, the original, or the earlier Lord of the Rings films feel real, feel like they actually happened in this world, maybe just a couple thousand years before everyone else came about. That was not there. This felt like a set, and that's a shame.
Well, let me just say, I didn't think he looked bad at all. In fact, I like how he lost his arm, and his solution for that problem seemed to be to just shove a spike through his arm. It's like it doesn't look good. It doesn't look like well thought out. It just is like, all right, I need some implement there. Let's just shove this thing in there.
That sounds like what Peter Jackson was kind of dealing with. What do I do with this character?
Snap!
Let's stick something in his arm.
I think Peter Jackson has received so much credit for creating CGI characters that are believable and realistic, but the element that's missing here is Andy Serkis, because with Gollum and with his King Kong, those were amazing CGI creatures. I hate CGI, and I thought those were amazing, but it's really hard to pull off if you don't have Andy Serkis there animating that person in a believable way.
Well, okay. First of all, it's not just Andy Serkis.
I didn't say it was just Andy Serkis.
Yeah,
I'm just saying I think that's the magical.
Is the heart of what makes those characters work. I think,
which makes them feel realistic to me.
Okay, my only pushback to that is that there's teams and teams of animators. Like, Andy Serkis is one part of a huge multi-layered process to make these characters look real. So the fact that, maybe Andy Serkis was that orc guy, we don't know. You know what I'm saying?
I do know.
Terrible. I hated the way it looked at the end. And I'm kind of surprised that you didn't see that was an issue, Dave.
Well, I think I'm surprising you left and right these days, Devindra. But
Dave, of course, I know there's 100 people behind every single CGI creature. Of course, I know that. What I'm saying is the unifying element between the ones that have worked for me has been Andy Serkis's performance.
Fair enough.
And the guy that they got to perform, I looked him up, and he has no interesting credits behind him.
I see.
Snap, Dave.
His performance capture resume is woefully inadequate for this role.
Feeble. It's feeble, man.
It's also strange, how the movie spends so much time with the Goblin King's design and that really interesting, disgusting design. And if you're looking at it in 48 FPS, it looks real, and it looks like you can see and touch all the weird boils on his face. And then when it came to designing the key villain against Thorin Oakenshield, it's like he looks like an orc and he's pale. And that's it. Let's give him a claw arm.
His scrotum neck thing was really interesting, I thought.
So you guys didn't talk about how, I guess, you're experiencing it.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. But I just want to give another shout out to the Gollum Bilbo riddle sequence, which I thought was one of the best sequences in film in this entire year. You know what I mean? Like, that, in my opinion, whatever failings you think of The Hobbit, that sequence justifies the movie's existence.
That sequence is less than 15 minutes long.
That's true. But still,
this movie is almost 3 hours long.
It was that good.
Let me just put all this in perspective, guys. Okay?
It was that good. That's what I'm saying.
You know what? Go ahead.
The comedian Doug Benson made some great joke where he was like, The Hobbit is the kind of movie where you're excited about the riddle sequence. That's the most exciting and interesting part of The Hobbit is the game of riddles.
Well, there's that chase through the goblin thing that's happening during the riddle sequence, which it felt a little bit too much to me. It just is kind of
the whole Balrog sequence again from Fellowship.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway,
Mousetrap.
Yeah, it actually felt like Mousetrap, to be honest with you. It felt like, oh, they're falling, and it's falling off a thing, and it sets off a whole chain reaction that does this, and all this stuff. So,
yeah.
All right, so...
Little do you guys know that Peter Jackson's been hired to make the Mousetrap movie.
See,
Starring Hobbitses.
Here's the problem, Adam, is that, like, in today's film environment, it's not even certain that that's a joke. I mean, Ridley Scott was attached to the Monopoly movie, okay? So, this is not outside the realm of possibility. But you were, in fact, joking, right, Adam?
I hope to God that was a joke.
His Battleship was a real thing that was released this year. Let's not forget.
Yeah, exactly. Let's never forget, guys.
You know what's really interesting though is that the Gollum like great back and forth scene I think with Gollum and himself just talking to himself in Two Towers, that I believe was filmed by Fran Walsh. And you know, as like an assistant director, I really wonder who was behind the camera for the scene in this movie.
You also see how much CG technology has advanced since.
You see it and then you don't in another character. This is a movie of contradictions.
Are you referring to the orc guy?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we got an email from Joshua / Filmcast listener Joshua Guitar. His name is Guitar. Apparently, I don't actually believe that's his real name, but whatever. I have some mixed feelings about The Hobbit. Some people / critics are complaining about the padding and the leisurely pace of the film. But aside from some bad lines of dialogue and a few failed funny moments, the pacing overall didn't really bother me that much. Even the Glee singing bits. Even the rabbit sled. I was kind of okay with that. I was happy to be in Middle-earth again. But visually, The Hobbit's a bit of a freak show. A Globe and Mail columnist described the visuals perfectly as somewhere between a soap opera, a sports bar football game, and a direct-to-video kids program from a bygone era. Sadly, I was thinking the same thing while watching. I'm not sure what Peter Jackson and company thought 48 FPS would give us over 24 FPS, but it felt like a movie at 1.25 times the normal speed. The way characters walked, moved, picked up objects, etc. was very unsettling. The slow motion shots were robbed of their intended gravitas because slow-mo was played at almost regular speed. 48 FPS also made flames, fire, rushing water, etc. look too unnatural, too crisp, and most importantly, subtle acting and character moments seem far too kinetic and frenzied, like everyone's had a dozen too many cups of coffee. Since it can't possibly be just a giant mistake, I'm kind of left to conclude it was Peter Jackson's choice. I'm far from being a filmmaking mastermind, but from a visual standpoint, it's a strange choice, considering the slow pace and the ancient mythical setting of the story. It kind of killed the magic for me, and that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the look of this film. This is a film that's one of the first major releases to be in 48 FPS, which is double the normal frame rate of a normal film. It's also referred to as HFR, is another way that people refer to this format.
Which, by the way, doesn't 48 FPS just sound cooler? Like, what is wrong with your marketing people? HFR?
Let's not dwell on the details here, Devindra. I think. Calm down, okay? First of all, calm down.
I was just thinking about that the other day, dude. It's like,
who are the ad wizards?
You can't even get the name right, guys.
Who are the ad wizards that came up with this one? Anyway.
You can also say it's 48.
Yeah, exactly.
But at least there's a number.
All right, so
you know it's bigger.
Joanna Robinson, you saw this in the classic 24 frames per second. Devindra Hardwar, you saw this in HFR, right?
I saw this in HFR, not in digital IMAX. I saw it at a Regal RPX theater, so they have like bigger screens and slightly better sound.
And Adam Quigley?
I saw it 48 frames per second and 3D, yeah.
Okay, so Joanna Robinson, I assume it just looked normal to you, right?
Well, it was still 3D, and it looked pretty normal. I don't love 3D, honestly. I'm like a Luddite, I guess, when it comes to technology in films. But the chase sequences, like as you mentioned, the underground goblin chase sequence, anytime that the action got really frenetic, it looked a little too smooth and a little too weird, and that I guess has nothing to do with the FPS, but the 3D maybe.
Well,
anyway.
yeah, 3D in action scenes is like notoriously difficult because you need to, like, when you're filming it. I mean, obviously a lot of CG was in those sequences, but when you're filming it, you need to figure out exactly what distance each character is away from each camera, and make sure the distances are all correct. So there is problems, and actually, I believe that was what a 48 FPS was intended to help solve, was to kind of make things smoother. And so here's the problem with 48 FPS or HFR for me was that the entire time I was watching this film, I could not help but think like how much more I would be enjoying this film at the classic 24 FPS frame rate. Because in my opinion, it looks terrible. Like it does not look good at all. It takes me out of the movie. Everything looks really sped up. You know, like a Three Stooges movie. It did not look natural. And it looked like it reminded me of Public Enemies. You know how Michael Mann used like digital video to shoot back in you know, that era, shoot a film that was a period piece back in that era. This movie felt like it was like video. It felt like a BBC.
Right, it looks cheap.
Soap opera.
It looks cheap when it's one of the most expensive movies of the year.
It looks cheap also when it's much clearer than anything we've ever had before. But I think we're getting at a really weird philosophical issue of how we watch movies now.
Right. So here are the advantages, as I saw it, of 48 FPS. The advantages are that there's very little like blurring when there's lots of motion, right? So that when there's motion with 3D situation, there's very little blurring. I talked with the owner or the manager of the theater I was seeing it at, actually, and he said that there is like almost no, like there's basically like no pixelation, which is incredible. Like you can't see a clearer presentation than with 48 FPS. And in my opinion, the digital special effects blended in a little bit better. Like it's harder to tell where a completely CGI character ends and real life begins.
Sure, because everybody looks like video.
Correct. So yes, those are all advantages of HFR. But the disadvantages are that it looks really jarring, sped up, took me out of the movie, and everything looks cheap. Like a lot of people say, you see actors acting on sets. You don't see dwarves rushing through Middle Earth. You see people on sets. And there was like that rabbit action sequence in the middle, I think just looked god-awful. Like that was just unforgivably bad.
I think that's regardless, though, of the frame rate.
Yeah, I mean, that's... Yeah, it could have been bad anyway, right? I mean, Joanna,
I think it was.
Yeah. But... So yeah, it's unfortunate. Like I did not enjoy this presentation, and you only get to watch this movie for the first time once. And I was someone who actually enjoyed this movie, and I felt bad that I was watching it in this format because it really, I don't think did the movie a service. So, Devindra, your thoughts, and then Adam, your thoughts on this.
It's weird because I'm trying to separate the experience of 48 FPS from seeing this movie from like the quality of the movie itself. But you know what? Fuck it. Peter Jackson wanted them together, so here it is together. I think the movie opens up in a really close-up scene of like a flame and older Bilbo Baggins, and when you see that first shot, it's kind of astonishing, the level of detail there. It's like, it's just so clear. It's like he is right there in front of you. And then he starts moving.
And it looks like sped up. It looks like
it looks sped up. It's weird. I wonder, too, if like just different people have a very subjective interpretation of how this 48 FPS stuff works on them. For me, I could see it looking sped up at the beginning. And then maybe like 10 or 15 minutes into the movie, like I just didn't see that anymore. I think my brain just kind of started processing it normally. For my fiance, it looked sped up the whole time. And for a lot of people I talked to, it looked sped up the whole time. I've also talked to a lot of people who said it made them tear up a lot more than usual. So like this, in a way, this technology almost seems like it's assaulting the audience. But it's weird that this even exists, right? It's solving a problem that I think only directors and only certain people have with the current state of cinema. And mainly that's because of 3D. So instead of adding more stuff on top of 3D, maybe we should consider other things like not making everything 3D or trying to fix 3D the way it is right now. It's just strange that a movie that is definitely clearer than anything we've ever seen before just looks bad. And I think it has to do with just the idea that it almost seems like you're removing the canvas. To me, it's like you're seeing a painting with just paint floating right in front of you. And there's no canvas, there's nothing there, there's almost no surface to it. And it's kind of disturbing. And there's a certain magic to movie making, or to movie watching, that I think this thing removes. I watched the trailer, I watched some clips at home, just after this. And it's astonishing how different it looks.
Yeah,
you know?
like I went home after this movie and I watched the trailer just to remind myself how good it could have looked.
Yeah,
You know what
and
I
the
mean?
lighting was all correct. Like it looked, there's no other way to describe it than it looked like a movie. And in 48 FPS, it doesn't really look like a movie. That's supposed to be a good thing, but I think it's a terrible thing because the lighting in the outdoor sequences, especially early on, is just extremely harsh and it looks bad. And I was really disappointed in that whole the early prologue sequence. So after Old Bilbo, and you see like you see Smaug attacking that the dwarf village. It looks terrible. It looks like a video game. And this HFR stuff is making, this world that almost existed in a real way because they built so many real sets and they built so many actual things for the original trilogy. It just cheapens this whole universe. And that's a damn shame. So ultimately, I can't say, I think eventually I got used to 48 FPS, but I pretty much hated it.
But tell us how you really feel, Devindra.
Yeah. I am not looking forward to seeing 6 more hours of this crap.
Adam Quigley.
I don't even want to respond. Because honestly, for me, it was probably the most interesting thing about the movie. I'm not going to say it worked 100% of the time because it definitely didn't. There was at least a significant portion of the film, which I agree, it depends on the lighting, a lot of the outdoor lighting, like you were saying. Anything that's more brightly lit, I thought definitely had more of a soap opera, BBC feel to it that I found distracting as well. But my adjustment period for the film was much shorter. I had that initial reaction, that initial gut response of like, this looks fucking awful. But after about 5 minutes, I started to warm up to it. And especially there were specific moments that I thought looked amazing, and I thought like if I had experienced them any other way, it would not have the same effect. There was just like this aquarium feel to it. Like I was just like there was like nothing in front of me. It was just something like I could just seeing actually happening in front of me, and it's like I felt like I could actually reach into the screen and like feel these things. There was such clarity to them, such a vividness to them, and that's something I feel like is like an exclusive benefit of the 48 frames per second. And the 3D that I don't know, it worked for me most of the time, and it was only a few instances in which I found myself being taken out of the film. I will say, like, because it is a new format and something that people haven't experienced yet, it is oftentimes distracting even if you're enjoying what you're looking at. There were times when I was taken out of the movie just because I was appreciating the format more than I was actually paying attention to what was happening on screen. And that's probably something that you shouldn't even be thinking about. But maybe that's also part of the adjustment process. This is something new. It's unusual to us. We're used to seeing this digital look associated with cheaper things. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's cheaper. I didn't feel like the movie looked cheap. I thought it looked incredibly expensive, and I thought it was really interesting to see the combination of CGI and actually and photoreal things being put up against each other and trying to tell the difference between them. There was an odd quality to it that I appreciated, especially with a lot of the wider sort of the nice vista shots,
the establishing shots.
Yeah, the sweeping camera movements and some of the action sequences that just go into this like wide focus. We're not in spoiler territory, right? So I can't like.
No, although we have basically given away most of the plot details of the film, but it's okay. I mean,
that's true. We have. That's why I was asking.
Yeah. But yes, we get the idea.
I'll just say there's flying shots. There's flying shots at some point in the film that I thought looked amazing, and I kind of just wanted 3 hours of that.
Wow. So it's not, first of all, Adam, let me just say, it's not surprising to me that your inexperienced, lacking the finer taste palate would find this format acceptable. No, I'm just joking. I mean, I went on kind of a rant about HFR because it really angered me watching the movie like this.
I hear you.
Because, again, to repeat myself, like, you only get to watch this movie for the first time once, and there is a kind of magic to it that I felt was totally lost seeing it in HFR. And I kind of wish I could have rewound time and, watched it again in, like, the regular format. So I went off on a rant, and I actually put a quote up from Boogie Nights. Jack Horner from Boogie Nights says, like, I will never make a film on videotape. You come into my house and tell me videotape is the future? I will never make a film on videotape. And like I was like, this is how I feel about HFR. And Russ Fisher, managing editor of SlashFilm.com, tweeted back at me and he said, and like Jack Horner, you'd probably be wrong. And so on the one hand, I acknowledge, like, yeah, like for me personally, it looked terrible. But on the other hand, it would not surprise me if this was the future. Now, I might argue that maybe the way it was presented in this movie is not what it's eventually going to be like. Like maybe they're still working out the kinks, you know, and that maybe the presentation.
Maybe. I mean, definitely.
Yeah. So they're still working out the kinks. So maybe like this is not exactly what Peter Jackson intended. Like the way that some of the camera movements to my eye looked kind of jerky because it felt like it was moving too fast. And so maybe they're still perfecting the technology. But despite my objections, let me just say I'm a realist here. Like I don't think that, or rather I do think that it's highly likely that HFR may become like a format of the future. But you know, we'll see what happens with like 3D. Like it's not even assured that 3D is going to become like the main format of choice at this point. You know, there's still a lot of barriers.
It's tough to say that 48 FPS is going to be the future because I feel like right now Hollywood, the whole industry is just throwing so many things at the wall to see what sticks. Like let's get 3D, let's get IMAX, let's get IMAX 3D.
Let's do
now
D-Box.
You have 3D IMAX HFR. You know, it's like, well, actually, no. The big IMAX, Film IMAX, can't do HFR because it's a digital projector only thing. So it's really confusing. It's a real mess. The thing is, though, guys, like in our conversations, like it's funny you brought up Public Enemies, Dave, because I never had an issue with the aesthetic in that film. I've never really had much of an issue with the move towards digital video. I think it can look great. I think it can look fantastic. Skyfall was shot digitally. Let's not forget that. But that's very different than what 48 FPS is doing.
Right.
You know, 48 FPS is basically, I don't know, it's throwing us almost into another realm where movies don't look like movies pretty much. They almost look like plays because it's real. And it's like you're there just basically watching a stage right in front of you. There are instances where this can be good. I definitely agree, but this movie doesn't seem like it. Like think of how what James Cameron did with Avatar, right? And that whole shooting environment and how he kind of built that whole movie around that new method of shooting. You know, I'm not going to get into which movie is better, but I think in terms of the technology that James Cameron wanted to introduce to the world and to show us kind of a vision of the future, Avatar at least worked. You know, that tech worked with it's kind of worked with the subject matter. It also helped tell the story. This technology in no way helped tell this story, and that's a bad thing. That's not a good thing. We shouldn't be hoping for more of this.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think who is it that was on our podcast that made the point? Was it? I feel like it was, I want to say it was Anne Stanwyck. I'm sorry, yeah, not Stanwyck, Thompson. Yeah, about how like, or maybe she wrote it in her review about how the 3D in Avatar, right? The movie Avatar is all about how you see other people. Right? And how you perceive them. And so the fact that it's 3D actually, like, the technology ties in with the theme of that film, you know? Whereas, did you just scoff in disgust at me, Joanna?
Not you.
It's at least, I mean, you can scoff at it, but it's at least kind of true.
Yeah.
To an extent. Not with this movie.
Jen Yamato at movieline.com has this fantastic interview with James Kerwin, who works... filmmaker James Curran on the science of 48 FPS, right? And how 48 FPS like falls into the uncanny valley of of like human perception. That like the human eye can only sort of detect around 40 frames per second. Like the human brain. Here we go. Most researchers agree we perceive 40 conscious moments per second. In other words, our eyes see more than that, but we're only aware of 40. So if a frame rate hits or exceeds 40 frames per second, it looks to us like reality. Whereas if it's significantly below that, like 24 FPS or even 30 FPS, there's a separation, there's a difference, and we know immediately what you're watching is not real. So that's kind of one of the issues, is that it's more than 40 FPS, but we know it's not real, but it's not real enough to totally trick us.
Right.
And that's why it kind of looks bad. So there's some science behind why it looks bad as well.
Do you guys know, is there a price difference between the tickets for the two different versions?
That I don't know.
It is a premium ticket. So for me, like at my theater, you have to pay for the RPX ticket. So that's something that, theaters already are offering. A higher, bigger screen, better sound, yada, yada. It's not a higher price on top of that, but you do have to pay for the extra experience, basically.
Yeah, I don't think there's that many. It's not like you're paying extra dollars for the 48 FPS experience.
But you have to see the premium ticket.
Yeah,
you have to see the premium screen if you want 48 FPS, basically.
Because, the 3D, to me, the big advantage, right, for studios has been the extra money, the extra revenue that they get from a 3D version.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so, you have to I cynically wonder how much of this is a money grab. And also, my other question, I know you want to move on, Dave, but my other question is, if you guys had to recommend someone see it in one version or another for the first time, what would you recommend? Because I thought, go ahead.
24 FPS, certainly. I mean,
2D or 3D?
Are you asking me or
yes,
Joanna?
2D or 3D.
I don't know. It's hard to I didn't see the 24 FPS version at all, so I can't.
I'm looking at these clips. I'm looking at the trailer on my TV. I'm like, man, I wish the movie looked like this.
Yes.
So if I were to recommend it, it would be 24 FPS.
Yeah. If you want to return to Middle Earth in the way that you perceived the first time, then I feel like the answer is clear. I think one of the few benefits of the film in terms of this returning to something that's familiar but different is the fact that it is slightly different. I appreciated the 48 frames per second treatment. Seeing it like that for me made it actually almost worth it.
Yeah, because, it's almost like a carnival ride, right? Because it's such a weird, different experience. So to a certain degree, you can recommend seeing it in 48 FPS because this is your first chance to see this. But I definitely would not guarantee that anybody would like it.
Joanna, what were you going to say?
Well, I just, I made a very conscious choice because as a film reviewer, quote unquote, I felt like I should see it in 48 FPS to experience the new technology, and I will see it in 48 FPS. But I wanted the first time that I saw it to not be distracted by this technology that is, by all reports, making people sick or, at the bare minimum, a distraction, as Adam said, even though he liked it. You know what I mean? And I just really wanted to experience the storytelling rather than be distracted by the bells and whistles.
Right. And I think it is a distraction. And some people are faulting critics for evaluating, making the 48 FPS part of their evaluation, to which I say, fie on you or whatever an appropriate term is, because this is something that Peter Jackson intended. He intends it to be seen in this way. And
I agree.
And if you don't like it, you have to react. You have to evaluate that as part of how you evaluate the film.
What an absurd dismissal of the cinematic experience.
Right.
I mean, that's an essential part of watching a movie is the visual and oral experience. I mean, that's kind of half of it right there.
It would be one thing if you were watching it with sunglasses on and a visor on that blocked out half your it'd be one thing if you were taking steps to lessen your cinematic experience that weren't intended by the filmmaker, right? Or if the sound was crappy in your theater and you punish the film because of that. But we're seeing it in the way the director intended it to be seen.
Right.
So it's got to play into the evaluation, in my opinion.
I agree, and I think you're right from a artistic, critical standpoint. You have to see it in 48 FPS, and I think what happened for me is my Tolkien fangirl instincts won out, and I wanted to see it as a fan, and I wanted to see it so I could enjoy the story.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's totally fine too. I'm just saying, if you see it in 48 FPS, you have to respond to it honestly.
Right.
Any other thoughts on The Hobbit and Unexpected Journey, guys?
I mean, we didn't really talk about some of the other things that got added in. I'm surprised, Adam, that you liked the Radagast the Brown stuff, because I feel
I like the introduction of the character.
Okay, well, I feel like that may be part of the problem, too, because that introduction, it's weird how this movie just feels like it is out of control. The actual goal of this narrative and the actual drive forward just feels almost like it's being driven by a drunk driver, because when
on a rabbit sled.
Yeah, on a rabbit sled.
On a rabbit sled. But yeah, that story starts. Gandalf is like, oh yeah, there are these other wizards. Cut to this other character. We were in the middle of a scene. Let's cut to this scene for a way too long. Then let's cut back to that scene with Gandalf. It's weird how all these things that they added in also feels like really forceful asides. They really have to shove them into the story, and that kind of took me out of the film quite a bit as well.
Absolutely. It felt abrupt. I think the scene on its own, though, was for me one of the most captivating parts of the movie,
it was
just
pretty
because
good.
because I don't know, it felt unlike something I had seen in Lord of the Rings, which is something I can't really say for the rest of the film, which it felt so derivative. And this one moment has this little hedgehog and fucking weird shadows of giant spiders crawling over. I mean, obviously giant spiders is not something that's unknown to Lord of the Rings, but just the effect of it, of them crawling over like this guy's hut while he's trying to bring this little hedgehog back to life. I don't know, like I wanted just to see more of that. And it brought a sense of whimsy that I thought the movie at times also captured, that felt true to like what you guys are describing as the source material. It felt true to the spirit of like this being a kid's story, and that's what I wanted to see more of. Whenever it got all fucking doom and gloom and serious, that's when I felt like the movie was at its weakest.
I will also say,
sorry, Devindra mentioned earlier the Tom Bombadil character that was cut out of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I felt like this was Peter Jackson's giant fuck you to be like, you want to see a hippie character in the woods? All right, I'll give you Radagast. He's the worst.
Look at all that bird shit
in the Silmarillion. Some bird has crapped all over him. Let's just make his rabbit sled a really important part of this story. Let's go.
I see what you're saying, Adam. Like that scene itself was interesting, and I like the idea of it. I don't like the way it was shoved into the story and how it slowed down the momentum of everything. And also, by the way, the whole Radagast thing is all about kind of building up the threat of Sauron and everything going on there. So, like the meeting at
Rivendell,
like with Galadriel and with Saruman there, that didn't happen in the book. And that is clearly just shoved in there to say, hey, remember these guys from the first movie, but also, hey, this is leading up to something, and maybe you shouldn't trust Saruman, people. Maybe.
You like Cate Blanchett? She's pretty.
Yeah, she's so pretty. Look at her have a vaguely romantic scene with Gandalf. Isn't this great, guys?
Okay, so...
it's that stuff being shoved in, though, which that wasn't part of the book. And it's funny, because if you read... it's funny that Tolkien himself had to sort of retcon The Hobbit to fit in and tie the stuff going into happening in Lord of the Rings. So he even had to make these changes, but Peter Jackson had to go back and make even more changes to make this story seem like a big build up to Lord of the Rings, when it really wasn't. It was just a simple tale about a cowardly hobbit who slowly finds his footing and becomes real, or like a real brave person. Devin Faraci at Badass Digest actually has a good compilation of some of the changes Tolkien made to the Hobbit story. Like, I think one of the most important ones is the way Bilbo gets the ring. The way it was originally written, Gollum was just giving up the ring as like part of the riddle bet.
Right.
Like the ring didn't have any special power, wasn't a special part of the story. In a revision, Jackson made it, or not.
Whereas in this version, Bilbo was just kind of a dick to Gollum.
Well, that's always how it was.
Yeah.
But eventually Tolkien remade it so that the ring was the thing that Gollum lost. And it had a sort of...
Dave, are you saying that when a creepy, slimy underground creature wants to eat you, you should be super polite and nice to it?
Well, I'm just saying he like stole the one thing that was, in the book, it was like an agreed upon thing, correct? That
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's what I'm saying.
All right, never mind then. Never mind.
Yeah.
Forget what I said.
In the first version of The Hobbit, yes, the ring was something Gollum handed over because of the whole riddle thing. But eventually, it was just, it's weird how it works in the book too, because it's just kind of a ring that Bilbo finds that kind of fell out, that Gollum used to hide, but it wasn't like in his pocket. The way Bilbo finds it in the movie actually makes more sense. It's just, it's funny that all these changes are happening on top of all the changes that Tolkien himself made.
I really do love that Tolkien retconned his own book to make it fit into a larger franchise. If we were, evaluating this back then, maybe we've been like, oh, I can't believe Tolkien changed. Oh, it was so important that the Necromancer is this. Oh.
I really wish Peter Jackson had went all out retconning. Like if that little flirtation between Gandalf and Galadriel, how do you pronounce her name?
Yeah, Galadriel, I think. Yeah.
Galadriel. If they had actually like segued into like a hardcore sex scene between them, I would have loved to see the reaction of people in the audience. That would have made everything worth it.
Extended edition, Adam.
That would have made this whole
in more ways than one, if you know what I'm saying. Extended.
By the way, how the hell is there an extended version of this movie? How is that possible? What?
There will be. It's going to be 4 hours on the Blu-ray.
All right, guys. I need to give a shout out to Howard Shore's work on this film, because I think if you had told me, a decade ago or so, that Howard Shore, the guy who wrote the music for Seven, is going to be like a really amazing, like is going to give us some of the best soaring cinematic themes we have, in recent memory, then I would have said you're insane. But I think he does a great job writing this sort of dwarf theme here, and I think it's used to great effect. And it fits in, and it's new, and it's good.
It's new, but it's also is reminiscent of the main theme of the original trilogy.
It's
I loved
reminiscent
it.
of all that stuff, and they also bring in the earlier Lord of the Rings themes as much as possible.
Oh, well, it's really effective when he first finds the ring, and you hear that ring theme for the first time. It is like, I got chills, man. Good work.
Reminding you of like a better adventure.
All right, guys. All right. Enough bashing of The Hobbit, enough defending of it for me. I think we're good. Is there any other thoughts, guys, or are we good to wrap up right now?
I'm sure there will be more thoughts, but let me just say, wrapping up, I'm dreading 48 FPS, guys, the way I've not dreaded a cinematic technology in a very long time. And that's kind of a problem for me.
Well, what you should be dreading is 60 FPS.
I mean, I'm sure when people first saw, like, videotape, they freaked out as well. And maybe it won't replace 24
not even
FPS.
a good comparison. What?
Like...
This is more like the shift to color, or the shift to the most recent shift to 3D or something. But I don't know, guys.
Well, I think the biggest worry for me is Bryan Singer has said this movie looks awesome, and he might shoot the next X-Men movie in it. So that's going to be...
Right now, the big debate is between 48 FPS and IMAX, and what Christopher Nolan has been doing. I think IMAX looks fantastic. Like, just
Me
the
too.
way that image looks, it still looks movie-like, but at the same time, it's clearer, it's bigger, and it feels like you're actually there in a way that doesn't... It's weird. You're there in a way, but at the same time, 48 FPS makes you feel you're there in a way, and it's like you don't want to be
The
there.
tricky thing with IMAX is just overhead costs for building those gigantic theaters.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just...
Well, and the cameras, like shooting with them.
Yeah,
is still okay.
it's like trouble all around. It's just hard to find theater, like space that you can actually build a theater of that size, and it's hard to have people who have the clout to shoot in that format, but Christopher Nolan is one of them. So
But that feels like what we're moving to generally, just like basically higher resolution, not speeding up the frame rate, which I feel like introduces all sorts of issues on top of things it's supposed to be solving. Just high resolution, like 4K is in most theaters now. Eventually we're going to see 8K theater stuff. Eventually digital cinema will be able to project something on the level of what IMAX can shoot. And at that point, I think that's going to be fantastic. You don't need to speed up the frame rate to achieve that higher quality.
say withhold judgment, and when we're recording /Filmcast episode 2000, we'll look back on this time and say, man, remember when Devindra gave such a stink about 48 FPS, when in fact it has become the format of choice. That's my prediction.
Are you really predicting that this will take off? Because when last have you seen the cinematic technology like this, guys, that so many people have complained about?
Well, 3D, a lot of people had beefs with that.
I mean, they complain about, the glasses are annoying. It's a little darker. Sure. It's a slight inconvenience over, oh my God, I can't even pay attention to the movie because I'm distracted by every fucking thing I'm seeing, or this looks terrible, or stuff like that. Like, it's a difference.
Wait, let's wait until James Cameron implements 60 FPS before making any judgments.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's going to be a completely different story.
Yeah.
So.
All right, guys, The Hobbit, The Unexpected Journey. An Unexpected Journey is out in theaters right now, and check it out or not based on our recommendation. Next week, actually, stay tuned to hear what we'll be reviewing next week. In the meantime, Joanna Robinson, where can we find more of your work on the internet this week?
Everyday on pajiba.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at quityourjrob.
Devindra Hardwar.
You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/Devindra. I write about techadventurebeat.com. I think I may actually do a sort of review of HFR at some point, so look out for that.
Adam Quigley.
/film.com and twitter.com/alwayswatching.
Find me at twitter.com/Dave Chensky. That's Dave Chen SKY. And facebook.com/ChenDavid, where you can subscribe to my public updates. Find all of our episodes at /filmcast.com. You can also email us at /filmcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of HFR. And stay tuned next week. I'm not 100% sure what we'll be reviewing, but I can tell you it's probably going to be either Jack Reacher or This Is 40. So look forward to that. Thank you guys for listening to the official podcast of /film.com. We're out.
We watch the movies, flicks, tracks for the good, bad. It's the /Filmcast. For all the news and the movies coming out, 'cause you know that it's the thing worth talking about.
Took me a second there to remember what movie we were reviewing today. That was from the trailer of The Hobbit, The Unexpected Journey, the newest film by director Peter Jackson. It is the first of 3 films that will depict the story told in J.R.R. What is this? What is
George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire.
J.K. Rowling's.
Let me try that again. That was from the trailer of The Hobbit That was from the trailer for The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, the newest film by director Peter Jackson, which is the first of a 3-part trilogy. I was going to say 3-part
It's okay, you're starting just like the movie, Dave. It's fine. Just keep stumbling over yourself.
That was from the trailer for The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, the newest film by Peter Jackson. It's the first... I can't do this anymore, guys. That was from the trailer for The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, which is the first part of... You know what? I'm just going to take a break, okay? Just gonna take a break.
Let's go breathe. Breathe.
Let's go take a break.